in Advance on the Gruely True Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you, of course, by Replenishing Care. Check out the PEMF machine and the future of sports medicine on thegruelytruth.net. You can go to the top of the page, click on the Replenishing Care banner. I'm your host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and now I want to introduce my co-host. He played for Bobby Knight, Steve Risley.
Mike, how you doing this morning?
All right, how you doing, Steve?
I'm groggy. I'm very groggy and tired. I had to sit through another dull 2 hours of watching the NBA award ceremonies with some comedian up there who how the hell this guy calls himself a comedian is beyond me. He wasn't funny. It wasn't pleasant to listen to him. And then we got to sit there and listen to a love fest for 2 hours as they give out and name awards and try to create a fashion show amongst a bunch of great athletes and great basketball players. And once again, there was a show that lasted 2 hours. It probably should have lasted 15 minutes. Got everybody up there, handed them their check, their trophy, took a picture, and went back partying, which is what I'm sure they were all doing out here in L.A. right after this thing was over.
They're probably hanging out with the Kardashians, right?
I understand that they're right now negotiating to be the official female of the NBA. The Kardashians as a general family. I'm probably going to get hate mail for that one.
They have a tendency to ruin guys, though.
I tell you what, the Kardashian curse does exist. But running through real quickly, we all called it yesterday. Well, I think we all believe LeBron had probably one of his greatest careers of all time. The MVP went to James Harden. Well deserved. He's a man that's worked hard in the sport, worked hard. He's played the game with class. And, well-deserved award. Either way, it could have gone either way, really, on that one. We tend to like to put, people that get spot longer in the playoffs, but we all debated that a little bit yesterday that maybe playoffs shouldn't really count on that.
They don't count.
It should be who shows it.
The regular season's the only thing that counts on any of these awards. They vote right at the end of the regular season.
I still say that I think in terms of just value to his team, LeBron probably was the most valuable player. He was more valuable to the Cavs because he didn't have the support that Harden had.
Well, there's no other player that you could put on that Cavs team and make it as far as they made it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Ben Simmons, Rookie of the Year, I don't think that was a big surprise. Here's a good one. Dwayne Casey, Coach of the Year, fired. How about that? Number one seed in the East. Fires the Coach of the Year. That says a lot about the mentality of the Toronto Raptor organization, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe they want to win a championship instead of getting swept out of the playoffs all the time.
Well, there you go. Let's place blame. So, Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, Utah Jazz, only player in the league that took a legitimate charge this year. Most Improved Player, Victor Oladipo. Anybody coming from the Oklahoma City team, Thunder, is going to improve no matter what they do because that team struggles. The Community Assist Award, Kevin Durant. What did he do to assist his community? I don't know, but I'm sure they got film of something. Sportsman of the Year, Kemba Walker, only player, including Bill Russell, who didn't flip somebody off last year.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though. Right now, the biggest award should be for that flip because nobody would even care about these awards if the old man doesn't flip off Charles Barkley. And I loved it.
I know. I loved it, too. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Daryl Morey, again, Executive of the Year with the Rockets. Well-deserved. That team has really, turned itself around and is on its way up and probably now going to be the prime contender with Golden State for dominance in the West for the next few years until the Lakers can buy whatever they need to buy to put themselves back in La Land. Teammate of the Year, Jamal Crawford, Timberwolves, known to have gone out every morning before practice and shoveled the driveways of all of his teammates. Play of the Year, with the assist of the referees in the NBA, goes to LeBron James. He took 6 steps, bowled over for 12 people, including 2 referees, but they didn't call anything, and had a great dunk. And that was the Play of the Year with the assist of the referees. And here's the one that really, I think, summed up the whole evening to me, the Style Award, the all-important dress and style award.
There's a Style Award? I didn't even know
there was a Style Award. Well, we if you would have watched the entire event last night, it was all about style. It was all about style. We spent as much time showing off dress and wear, and commenting on that. And it went to Russell Westbrook, despite the fact that LeBron spent $45,000 on a short pants suit to show off in front of TV as he's going into the game in the championship series.
My question is this: was the style award
once again
voted on at the end of the regular season, or did the playoffs count?
That's a good question. I don't know if style award counts. They take that vote then. Probably not, because I'm sure they send a ballot out all at one time. So maybe you're exactly right there that LeBron, was too little, too late for him to win the style award. But I know he made a valiant effort at the end there, just as he did in the championship series. But despite having all the money in the world and spending a good part of it on a short pants suit, which I'll never feel comfortable wearing, he lost out to Russell Westbrook, who was the all-important dress and style award.
Was LeBron a finalist for this?
They don't list. Like Ricky Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last.
Well, this is the thing, though, because I assumed that if LeBron would have won, all the LeBron James fans would have been posting that this proves he's better than Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan never won a style award.
I'm sure Michael Jordan 86 the style award when he was running the NBA. So I'm sure he said, as long as I'm running the NBA, just as much as LeBron runs Cleveland, I think that there was probably no style award because Jordan didn't think he could win it. And if he couldn't win something, he wasn't going to play in it.
Yeah, but Steve, you got to give a man credit for coming up with shorts with his suit.
I got to give him the kahunas. I got to give him credit for having the kahunas to do it.
You know what it looks like? The only time I've ever seen that is like you'll see a picture of a mother in the 60s with her kid, and her kid will have the little suit on and it'll have shorts. That's the only time I've ever seen that.
Yeah, the British do it all the time. Yeah, and actually the comedian came out. I can't remember the guy's name, Anthony Anderson or something like that. Or I've seen him on television before, and I didn't think he was funny then. I didn't think he was funny last night. He came out in that same outfit, and they just took it to a whole new low. It's like, Jesus. I mean, it's one thing for LeBron to do it. If anybody can pull it off, it's LeBron because he's LeBron. But now you're going to try and imitate it. And then I'm watching Barstool Sports and their great genre of just showing funny videos all of their entire time when they're broadcasting. And they show a video of a guy paddleboarding himself across the Hudson River into Manhattan to go to work in his suit. Because he says it's too long. It's faster for him to paddleboard across the Hudson River to get to his office than it is for him to take the ferries and the buses and fight Manhattan traffic. And this idiot had long pants on. Now, I'm thinking if there's anybody in the world that should be wearing a dress suit with short pants, it's this guy paddleboarding across the Hudson River. But apparently he made it across intact, unwet, and nobody, slocked him down or swamped him or anything like that. And
Wait a second. Steve, real quick. I know you're from Indiana, so I expect you probably know a lot of things, English-wise. But is unwet a word?
No, I made that up. I make a lot of things up. And that's the whole thing. It's fake news. I mean, it's fake news. It's I follow Donald Trump. I mean, I'm all about fake news. So, I don't necessarily like Donald Trump. I'm not giving a political statement here. I'm just saying I follow him, and it's all fake news. But he did do it. They had film at 11. So of him actually paddleboarding across the Hudson River in his suit with his briefcase strapped around his back, and he made it high and dry and didn't get wet.
Yeah,
but there was a case where there was a practicality to the short pants suit. But anyway, the biggest disappointment to me for the awards show was the total Oscar Robertson.
Biggest disappointment?
Biggest disappointment, yeah. It was sloppy.
Oh, Oscar Robertson. All right, I thought we were talking about Bill Russell.
Yeah, they put one of the biggest malcontents in the NBA up there, Kareem, who's just an angry old man. And then they put Charles up there, who Charles is one of those guys in terms of his humor. If we can buy him for what he's worth, sell him for what he thinks he's worth, we make a lot of money off Charles in terms of his humor. And it was so bad that they did catch on film of Bill Russell just flipping off Charles Barkley. And it was the highlight of the night, as you said. It was the funniest thing that happened the entire night on the NBA show. But it was kind of like, you know, I got the attitude, and I'm from Indiana. You're from Indiana. We know what Oscar means to us in Indiana. And it was like the attitude I took away from it was like, well, they felt like they had to do this because they were trying to publicly make amends with Oscar because of the 76 deal of him winning the case for free agency for the NBA players, along with Kurt Flood with baseball earlier. You know, those two set the tone for free agency. And I never got the feeling that they really wanted to do it. I didn't think Oscar put a lot of effort into his speech. It was kind of read right off a teleprompter. It was kind of Jabbar and Barkley getting up there and just kind of lip syncing their way through a little introduction, and most of it was done off of video. And it didn't feel heartfelt, and I think that everybody should be very heartfelt to Oscar Robertson, because he is one of the greatest players in the league. Wherever he falls in that pecking order depends on how much you like him or like his game. He still is the only professional basketball player ever to average a triple-double in professional basketball. And I think that speaks highly to the fact of all the great talent that's come through. But I just felt it was let's do this. They did it in the middle of the show. They didn't make a big deal about, kind of like we gave the Best Dressed Award, we gave the Executive of the Year, and in between we'll throw in a Lifetime Achievement Award to Oscar Robertson. So I was probably mostly disappointed with that they didn't really celebrate what Oscar has meant to basketball at every level, in high school and college in Cincinnati, and then, you know, with a stellar NBA career and his fight for the rights of the players and things like that. So that was the biggest disappointment to me in that. But other than that, there wasn't a heck of a lot else going on in sports. Baseball, you know, look at the stats. I don't think really baseball gets important until after the All-Star break when they start, you know, making the run for the playoffs and pennants. And, you know, you follow your team, you know what your team's record is, watch it. Its season's way too long. I cannot imagine owning season tickets to a baseball team and having to sit through 81 home games. So, but other than that, there wasn't a lot of other sports. Anything big happened in boxing last night?
No. It was like, what night is it? Last night was Monday night. There's nothing happens big on a Monday night. We did
Wimbledon
have Anthony Joshua is now supposed to fight, you know, not Deontay Wilder, because that's off, which would be a huge fight in boxing. But, of course, boxing likes to kick itself in the ass all the time, so they won't fight yet. But that reminds me that Friday we'll have a 10-minute or so segment with John Raspani, author of Intimate Warfare, The Tale of Gotti Ward. He'll be in to talk a little boxing with us. Tomorrow, our subject is going to be one me and Steve are going to go bare knuckles over, and that is whether kids under the age of 15 should be playing tackle football. And I got a message last night. Ed White, who should be in the Hall of Fame, he was a great offensive lineman for the great Vikings teams of the 70s, and then the Air Coryell Chargers of the late 70s, early 80s. But I know that he was just diagnosed with dementia. He's a great guy. Really hate to hear that. And also I want to touch on one other thing. Since I am in Indiana, I live in Lawrenceburg. We had probably up there with Dolahan, the two biggest coaching figures in Indiana high school football history. Dolahan, of course, and then Dick Meter, who passed away. He was the coach at Lawrenceburg High School, won a state championship in 75 and 78, I think it was. He retired in 1980. The program has never been the same, but he's a person that had more influence on a community than probably anybody that's ever lived in the community of Lawrenceburg before. And, I mean, people are still crazy about the football here today. And they talk about, you know, the meter teams. And the thing that really impresses me about him wasn't just how good of a coach he was, is everybody I know that played football for Coach Meter absolutely loved the guy. So we send all of our deepest sympathies to the Meter family in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. We are going to take a commercial break. We're going to give you a commercial about Out of Left Field, our Major League Baseball show, which is once a week with Chris and Graham. They do a great job. Then you'll hear a commercial for PEMF. We will be back after that commercial break to talk about one of my favorite subjects, Roger Goodell and the hypocrisy of NFL suspensions. So we'll be back in about a minute and a half.
Hey, sports fans. Chris and Graham here from the Grueling Truth Network.
Baseball's boring. It's too
We have to
slow.
be quieter when we talk.
Where's the fun in it?
Quiet.
If you think that,
Right.
then why the hell aren't you listening to Out of Left Field with us on thegruelingtruth.net?
On our
We haven't
show,
fixed that problem
we
yet
make
either.
baseball way more than just a bunch of numbers. You laugh with us, probably yell at us, and hopefully learn a thing or two from us.
Ever wonder what it's like to be a major league umpire or why they made the call they did? Lucky for you, we have our own umpire on the show, even have big league umpires stopping by from time to time, and even the occasional big leaguer or two.
And all of that's just the first 10 minutes. Come on by and join the fun. Listen to Out of Left Field with Graham and me every week on thegruelingtruth.net, and give us a follow on Twitter and Facebook.
Just search Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham and like our page on Facebook, or use our Twitter handle at @OOLeftField. It's that simple. See you all this week when we put the ball in play on Out of Left Field.
Replenishing Technologies helps athletes of all levels train, recover, and perform at their absolute best. We do this by offering the PEMF 120, the world's leading pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device. Workouts, injury, and stress cause cells to lose their natural power. PEMF works like a battery charger, helping cells regain the power needed to dump toxins, take in oxygen and nutrients, and repair. 95% of athletes report less pain, increased range of motion, more energy, and they simply feel better after using PEMF 120. If you'd like to count yourself among that group, contact us at www.replenishingtechnologiesinc.com. All right, guys, we're back on Survive Advance. I'm Mike Goodpaster, sitting here with Steve Risley. Now we're going to talk about... Yeah,
Wait, Mike, before we start, you cut me off before your damn commercial. I got a couple things that I needed to finish up with the NBA. As I'm sitting here watching my little Australian Shepherd lay here snoring loudly.
I would like to bring up the fact
running in
that
his sleep.
you're the one that went away from the NBA, so I figured you were done with it.
I know I wasn't done. I wasn't done. Two comments. One, in regards to Coach in Lawrenceburg, that's what's great about sports in states like Indiana, where the hype's not there. There are other gentlemen who coach at the same level like that and brought the same community back to their communities, got everybody involved. And I think that that's something you really don't get in a lot of those states that you do get in Indiana along the way. So really do appreciate having somebody like that in our state, being a coach, being representative of sports in Indiana. And on to that now, there are substantiated reports out here in Los Angeles, because I watch the local news, that LeBron has just bought a second house in Brentwood, and that his older children are enrolling at this point into private schools in the LA area. Now, substantiated reports is kind of the same thing probably as fake news. But they were reporting that last night, that he has purchased his second home in Brentwood, which is famously known as the former home of O.J. Simpson, and that his older children are indeed enrolling or are preparing to or are enrolling at this point in time in private schools. So take that for what it's worth. It might be gossip, might be wishful thinking, or it might be fact. But I'm on the case.
Well, as long as you're on the case, we'll be fine. All right. That was just.
I'm looking to buy the house right next to LeBron.
Well, you should, and then maybe we could get LeBron on the show.
No, all we need to do is sell some advertising on our show.
Well, we'd still.
My wife wanted to look at my wife wanted to look at Chris Paul's house in Calabasas, and that house sat right next to Khloe Kardashian's house. So there you go. But unfortunately, the $10 million price tag was just a little bit out of our price range.
All right. So our main topic today is NFL suspensions, Roger Goodell. And Steve, I know you've looked at the list. It seems like half the league's already suspended before the first game's played this year.
Well, here's what's interesting. And I pulled up, and I did a little bit of homework on this. According to Wikipedia, which breaks down all the suspensions ever handed down in the NFL, 164 suspensions up till June 15, 2018. Okay, and I don't know, most of these look like for violation of league's personal conduct policy. I don't see a lot on here for PEDs or things of that nature. Most of these are suspensions probably for conduct on becoming a player. Yet I looked this at 2018, and so far this year, now the season hasn't even started yet, correct?
No.
This 2018 so far, there have been 21 suspensions doled out by the NFL with a total fine of over $9.3 million. Now, that's ridiculous. Most of these we don't even know that are there. And I mean, they just question after question here to start diving into and talking about. But, the earlier suspensions that came were mostly all for fixing games. Those were the two earliest suspensions were two quarterbacks.
Warning, Karras, those guys, even back to
long before that. Art Foles on 1925, and Frank Finchuk and Merle Hopes, lifetime suspensions. They were banned for life for fixing an NFL championship game, involvement in betting with games, and then, of course, the two biggest ones were Karras and Horning, which came in 1963. The interesting thing was, and I don't really not that well versed in the hierarchy of the NFL, but the first suspensions came in 1925. The next one suspension didn't come until 1947. So there's a big gap there where I don't know if the NFL retooled itself. Maybe you have to speak to that better than I can. But starting in 1947, then from there, another suspension didn't occur, which was Horning and Krause for the entire season in 1963. And then they start popping up maybe one or two a year. And then as you go down the food chain, they start happening with great prolifics. Prolifery is another made-up word. Almost regularly.
Maybe there'll be a drinking game out there. Every time Steve makes up a word, you take a shot.
We can't promote drinking and driving or working and drinking or anything.
Nobody said anything about driving.
Because I'm an idiot. I'll be the first to admit that. But, it goes from the earlier suspensions, which were pretty significant suspensions, lifetime bans, seasons, and to where now it's like 1 game, 2 games, which, is like a vacation for these guys. It's not a penalty to any great degree. They lose their money, but they make so much damn money that to sit out a game and not have to play, especially against somebody that's not a significant team or a big game, sometimes almost becomes a benefit and not a liability to that player if you're a star player. But anyway, so, we'll go on through it. Go ahead and open up the discussion, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I mean, guys that get busted for PEDs, I don't have a problem with. But I do have a problem with a lot of these suspensions because the NFL goes overboard on a lot of them. Perfect example is Vontaze Burfict. I mean, if he hits anybody right now, he gets suspended. He got a concussion at the end of last season with 2 or 3 games left to play. Used a prescribed medicine from his doctor. And I guess that prescribed medicine had some kind of steroid in it. And now he's suspended for the first 4 games of the season. Jameis Winston is one that, let's face it, Jameis Winston probably shouldn't even be in the NFL. If you want to eliminate a lot of these problems, maybe take these guys. I mean, Brandon Banks was a guy in 2013 or 14 that was convicted of a sexual assault with like 4 other players at his college. I think it was Iowa State. And when I look at this, if you're bringing guys in that have been in constant trouble in college, I'm not talking about he got in a fight when he was 18 or he was smoking weed. And, just don't draft the guys. I mean, how many times do we sit here on a draft Thursday night and they say, this guy dropped 5 or 6 picks because he has issues with his character. Now, I don't know about you, but if I own a team and I'm putting millions of dollars into a guy, I'm probably not going to risk it on the character thing, Steve.
I disagree. I disagree from that point of view. I think that the NFL is about winning, that the money falls into the hands of the teams that win. And I think that the level of scrupulousness in the NFL is lower than they want to perceive us to believe it is, by waving the flag around every time and being patriotic and painting their logo red, white, and blue. We think that they claim to be donating so much money to charity and continue to be a not-for-profit, or they gave it up to not-for-profit. They were up to PGA too. They gave it up, yeah. I don't think that's true. I think that these teams, these egotistical owners, want to win football games, and they want to sit around at their swanky owners meetings. And I think that it's kind of, I almost think of it like as the Pinto theory that Ford had. You know, when Ford found out that Pintos exploded upon rear impact and killed people, Ford just made the conscious decision to say, you know what, we'll take the lawsuits and we'll keep building Pintos because we're selling the living crap out of them. And the lawsuits will not be as bad as if we got rid of the car.
All right.
And that was Ford's decision.
Answer me this real quick. When you look at the guys that are risk, how many of these guys have been the reason a team is improved or won a Super Bowl? I mean, when you look at it, you got Johnny Manziel, huge issues, set back the Browns 3 to 5 years because they still need a quarterback. Ryan Leaf. I mean, you got a ton of these guys. Brandon Branks, who played in the NFL. They drafted him into the NFL. Now he's in jail for like the next 15 years for a rape that he committed that the NFL knew about when they drafted him. So when I look at this, and I look at guys like Russell Wilson, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, I don't see anything like that with these guys. And I think that it's really, really stupid to think you could win, especially like at the quarterback position, with a guy like that. And in the end, I mean, yeah, you can't have choir boys playing football. But, you know, like Vontaze Burfict, he gets suspended for 4 games every time he stands up on a football field. But the thing about Vontaze Burfict is this. I'm a Bengals fan, and I've seen a lot of guys get arrested. I've never seen Vontaze Burfict get arrested off the field. Vontaze Burfict's problem is he's nuts on the field. I can deal with that. I don't care about that. What I care about is if you're out there sexually assaulting somebody, I don't want that on my team because let's do this. I think if a rape is proven, I don't think that person should ever get out of jail. I think it's the more demeaning thing you can do to somebody, you know, outside of maybe murdering somebody for no reason. So I don't know why we watch the NFL constantly bring these guys in and then wonder why they keep going bad. Because when you look at it, Chris Carter, Chris Henry, who played for the Bengals, I mean, there's very few guys you can look at and say, well, this guy was complete trouble, and he turned his life around. It doesn't happen that much. And no, I don't think that if some person makes a small mistake that he should be not drafted by the NFL. But when you got a guy that's investigated and found guilty of a freaking gang rape, which Brandon Banks was, maybe you shouldn't bring him into your team.
No, I think morally, Mike, you're spot on, but I just don't think there's a lot of morals in professional sports. I think that they, rather than do the right thing, they find a way to circumvent the right thing. And if the kid's got talent and he can play, for most of the time, I mean, let's take Jameis Winston right now. I mean, yeah, I morally I agree with you, but he's been convicted. He's not even been charged with anything legally.
Oh,
I mean,
this is a thing.
Well, yeah, I know.
Care.
That's the thing. Well, wait a minute. There is a thing in our Constitution that says you are innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
He's guilty. He lied about everything that happened, Steve.
I know that, but no. Okay.
Wait a second. Do you know who the guy who was with him? The guy that was with him. That Jameis Winston said, yeah. Who was that guy?
I can't remember his name right now.
It was Brandon Banks. Brandon Banks was the one that Jameis Winston said he was with. Brandon Banks just got convicted in 15 years for rape in jail. And the thing is this.
When
they asked Brandon Banks what happened that night, Brandon Banks said that Winston was put in an Uber by him and another player. I think it was Darby, a guy that used to play for the Bills. They put him in an Uber to send him on his way. They weren't with him. It's a complete and utter lie that Winston told when he said he was with these guys and they could vouch for him, because neither one of them vouched for him. Now, Jameis Winston's a dude that was stealing stuff when he was in college. You know, he was accused of a sexual assault in college, which went away. And my problem with that is this. When you look at Jameis Winston and all of his offenses, which if you read the article I wrote on thegruelingtruth.net, it goes through, this is a guy that, let's face it, he played at Florida State. I don't think it's a stretch to say maybe Florida State made this go away, because if you look at the Michigan State thing, everybody that was in charge of that was trying to make that go away.
Right. And I think that most everybody will try to make everything go away because of the dollars that are involved in the entire process. I don't think the NCAA is above trying to make things go away. NFL's not above trying to make things go away. NBA, none of the leagues are above trying to make things go away, because there's money involved in everything, and money supersedes everything in that world. In the moralistic world, I'm with you 110%. But, you know, Jameis Winston, and I'm not defending him, I'm just trying to look at it from an objective point of view, not an emotional point of view. He's been convicted of nothing. He wasn't even charged in the deal. I mean, the police did an investigative report. The prosecuting attorneys said they couldn't find enough to even warrant bringing charges against him.
The police did not do an investigative report. This was not even reported to police. She reported it to the Uber company, who then reported it to the Buccaneers. And, well, she didn't report it to the Buccaneers. It came out because she was telling everybody about it. But the thing is, the NFL ran this investigation, and when they talked to Winston, he lied to them. So if you're going to lie to them, and see, this is my first thought's kind of the same yours was when I saw this. It's like, well, she didn't go to the police right away. All right, why wouldn't you go to the police?
Well, that doesn't matter.
But listen,
that to me is immaterial.
But this is my thought. I don't think the NFL, without somebody being convicted, should be able to suspend somebody. But I also think this. They did an independent investigation, which I got no problem with, because anybody with workers can do that on their workers.
Sure.
And when they come up with the fact that he lied, and this is the thing, he did it. All right, I don't care, because if I'm accused of doing something like that, there's no way in hell that I'm going to admit that I did it. And he basically did that because the mandatory penalty for this is a 6-game suspension. He got the NFL to drop it down to 3. So I've got 2 questions here. Number one, if the NFL knew this happened, he has a history of this, why in the hell are they reducing the suspension to 3 games? And on his end, if he didn't do this, why the hell isn't he fighting it? I mean, neither
I think
one of those things make sense.
The difference between what's right and wrong, what's morally right and wrong, and what's legally right and wrong are 2 different universes, and it's tough for people like you to separate those because you believe in the passion and the moral of it. And the moral of it, you're probably 99.9% accurate in your assessment that you just gave, but legally, you're not right. He's by the Constitution of the United States, he is not. There's no foundation officially to terminate him, fire him, suspend him, or anything. Now, did he look at it and say, "Yeah, I probably did it. I did do it, and I'm going to take the hit"?
Clause
sure, there is.
Contract.
But that basically that handcuffs the NFL into what they can do, because they're taking that and saying, "Man, we got something out of this. You know, we got something out of this. We got him suspended. We made some kind of a statement. The impact there is not what we would like it to be, but we really have no other recourse because there was no crime reported, no crime legally investigated, and it's not there. So we can't just go under Civil Liberties Acts, unions, laws, constitutions, and just say, we think Jameis Winston is a bad guy and we're going to shit can him. We can't do that.
The CBA that they signed said that you can. I mean, that's why you've got the automatic suspension to 6 games if something like this happens. That's what the NFL Players Association agreed to. I mean, so it doesn't matter what the Constitution says if your CBA says this is the way we're doing this. And
looking at the big picture here, look at the big picture. If they do this, what happens immediately? Lawsuit. Jameis' lawyers sue the NFL.
No, he's not going to sue the NFL.
Yeah, they will. Well, they will.
Hey, Ezekiel Elliott got screwed last year. He did nothing wrong. He was found not guilty. The woman was trying to take money from him, and they still suspended him. So this is the thing. I think the NFL is a horseshit organization, too.
No, there's no doubt about that.
Jameis Winston is a joke.
The NFL is basically run by a bunch of cowards who just want to protect themselves, protect the integrity of their league, and continue to make buku bucks off of everything else. And, you know, they allow this to go on, and there lies the problem. It's that Goodell does not have a stronghold on this. He does not have a consistent policy, and he's laid no foundation or black and white area and let it all be gray, and then they make these inconsistent rulings across the board, and then it looks more stupid than if you just said, we did our own investigation, he has broken no laws, we understand that, but we have our own policy, agreed to by the Players Association, agreed to by us. In our eyes, in our investigation, he is suspended for 6 games, not negotiable. And be done with it. And I think people would respect the NFL a lot more if they did that. Well, but turn that around, the minute they do that, Winston's people are all over this. And then we start opening up cans of worms on Winston's side and on the NFL side. Because a good lawyer is going to rip the NFL a new butthole for the way they do things. And it's all the dirty laundry starts coming out on both sides of the fence. The NFL does not want anybody looking into their records. That's why they gave up their
nonprofit
tax-exempt status, because by tax-exempt, the government can look at your records. And they'll say, we're tired of you looking at our records. We're giving up tax-exempt. It's not worth it to us anymore. We want to keep our stuff in-house. They let it go. And because they don't want anybody looking at what they're doing. So they run their own house. Players are important to teams for ticket sales, for everything. You know that. You're a football coach. You coach in professional sports. I'm telling you stuff that I don't even know as much well as you know. But I'm telling you what it looks like from the 10,000-foot level. It's a total mess. It's piss poor leadership by the NFL, and it's an inconsistency to act upon similar charges based on what appears to be what your status is in the NFL.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Last year, there were at least 4 players that were suspended for an entire season for smoking weed.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, this is the thing. Josh Gordon's career has been ruined by this crap because he smoked weed. And I'm sorry. You know, Brett Favre the other day made national headlines because, you know, he said that kids under the age of 15 shouldn't play tackle football. Now, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. You can find out tomorrow at noon on Survive It Advanced. You'd like that plug and segue? That was pretty sweet, wasn't it? But
that was very sweet.
What he
nice
does not
segue.
Tell you is this, all right? Maybe his CTE is because of all his Vicodin and his alcohol problems. He doesn't say that. Maybe you know, the Vicodin and the alcohol is why, you know, Flash D's junk took a picture of it and sent it to a New York Jet reporter or whatever it was. But the fact is this.
All right, we're off track.
Brett Favre. No, we're not. Brett Favre, you know, and other players get addicted to Vicodin. And a lot of times they don't get suspended. They just put them in rehab and let them go. My question is this. I want to know why opioid abuse is all right and marijuana is not. You know, we had Kenny.
Okay, but let me interject real quickly. While this was all going on, Brett Favre was the most important player in the NFL. Okay, he was the gritty, gutty, play with a broken thumb, play after my dad died, bringing the Packers back in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field,
and
quarterback that was supposed to,
because he sucked.
And they were not going to do anything to Brett Favre to tarnish Brett Favre's image, because Brett Favre was at that point in time the poster child of grittiness, toughness, and what the NFL wanted to be represented as and stood for. Tough kids that went out and played football, played the game hard with all their heart. I'm sure the NFL knew about his drinking, his not gambling, his opioids and everything, but they're like, everybody keep your mouth shut and let's ride Brett Favre's back as long as we can. And because Brett Favre is bringing the NFL a hell of a lot of money right now. He's bringing the Packers back, a small-town market that God knows why they even have an NFL franchise other than they're one of the original teams. They're certainly not big enough to support that team, but they do support it. And, you know, but he's the poster child. So they're not going to damage Brett Favre, not while he's playing. There's no way. Am I right there?
That's kind of my point. I mean, Brett Favre sexually harassed Jen Sturger in 2010 by sending naked pictures of his junk to her, and instead of being suspended, they fined him $50,000 because he was a New York Jet. And, you know, you want to have Brett Favre in New York. So my thing is this, and let's face this, most of the guys that get busted for the weed are black. They're African-American players. So I don't think the NFL really cares to rectify that situation, you know?
Oh, man. Most of the players that play in the NFL are black. I mean, so that's like, you know.
Yeah, but I can tell you
know
this.
The fact, you know the old story. When the insurance company, when you buy a red car, your insurance rates go up because they say more red cars get involved in accidents and pulled over for speeding than any other color of car made. You know why? Because there's more red cars made, so than any other color car in the United States. So therefore, they're going to have a higher statistic than anybody else. So that's ludicrous to say it only happens to black people.
No, I'm saying that they don't care because that's the way it is.
I don't agree with that one. I'm not going to go down the social barrier of that. I think it's a talent thing more than a skin color thing. I think that where you fall on the talent plane of your
more
team.
Of a talent thing?
No, I think the suspensions that are handed down and the punishment handed down is more of a. They'll make tougher examples out of kids who are lesser known than they will out of a big superstar.
No, they don't. They do it all the time. They do it to Vontaze Burfict, who's the best linebacker in the NFL.
You know, then the incident gets so bad they're forced to deal with it.
He didn't do anything so bad. When did he do something so bad?
No.
In the last 3 or 4 years, he's had, I think, 3 personal fouls. That's one a year. I mean, come on. He hits Antonio Brown in the head, and he gets suspended for the first 3 games of the next season.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't help that going at that higher rate of speed from that close together. The guy's never done anything wrong off of the field. If it was Luke Kuechly, he wouldn't be suspended as long.
Yeah. Well, to me, the deal is if you don't set definitive boundaries across the board that are applicable to everybody, then these things start to happen. You know, it's just the NFL is very bad at. They want to look at everything as an individual case, and I understand everything is an individual case, but there has to be a black and white set of boundaries that if you fall in or out of, here is the penalty. And it's not negotiable based on what your number is, what team you're playing for, what your position is, what your salary is, or anything. This is it. But I think what's most importantly is even to begin to start looking at what are they doling out penalties for. Anything sexually related on either side of the fence should be top priority.
But it has to be proven.
You know,
you got to be convicted of it, or you got video evidence of it.
Well, okay, now you're talking against yourself with Jameis Winston because you're saying nothing's been proven. It's all hearsay. There's no proof that he did what he did.
They found the investigation. He lied.
But there was no proof.
Lied.
It was not tried in a court of law. It was not. It's hearsay. Any good lawyer will tell you that's hearsay.
His proof was
Strike
a lie.
that motion.
His proof was a lie.
Well, you're talking to another convicted criminal who's lying. I mean, who do you believe? When do you stop believing idiots?
I don't know. Let's go with the Uber car driver that wasn't convicted of anything.
Well, how do we know? Uber car drivers out here, we got more Uber car drivers in trouble than we do anybody out here.
Yeah.
Threw a guy out of his Uber car the other day, got him killed on the interstate. Literally got a guy open the door and threw him out of his rolling car on the 10, and the guy got run over and killed because the Uber driver said that he put pepper spray in his face. They found no pepper spray. You know, it's like now we got an Uber driver under investigation. Do we believe all Uber drivers? Are they solid citizens? I mean, where you go?
Winston.
Well, I mean, there's just foul play everywhere. I mean, it's not if it's not tried in a court of law, I find it difficult to believe that they can, unless they come up with an agreement. I know every corporation has its own corporate security. I worked 25 years for Pfizer. We had our own corporate security. They investigated it. You know, the government can say, we found no problem here. You know, in drugs, we sold pharmaceuticals. If they said we found it, and we were gone, you were gone. But it was definitive. You were gone. It wasn't like, oh, well, you know, God, Risley's been sales manager of the year for 8 years in a row. You know, we'll let him slip up on this one and go. And we'll tell him he's not going to get promoted for 3 years, and he won't get a salary increase for 2 years. But we'll go on because he's a top salesman for. No, you're gone.
Well, I
watched some of the top salespeople in our company get shit canned for that very reason, giving out samples to friends, doing things like that, and you know, they got busted by our corporate security. They're gone.
Okay, Jameis Winston is out at 4 o'clock in the morning with Brandon Banks.
We have curfews in this country now?
Huh? All I know is
do we have curfews in this country
if
now?
you are a
do we have
rich
curfews
athlete,
do we have curfews in this country now?
I guarantee you this.
Do we have curfews in this? Answer my question first. Do we have curfews in this country?
Yeah, some places.
Where?
Curfew here in Lawrenceburg if you're under 18.
Well, there should be a curfew in Lawrenceburg if you're under 18. You guys got sheep out there.
Yeah, and the guys from Lawrence Central come and try to have sex with them all the time.
No, we tip cows.
Yeah, and have sex with them all the time. But
gotta take it personal. You gotta take it personal,
Steve,
don't you?
Steve, this is the thing. I don't care what a lot of people do. But what I do care about is this. If I'm paying an NFL player millions of dollars who's been accused of rape, who has been convicted of stealing in multiple occasions, I probably don't want him hanging out at 4 o'clock in the morning somewhere with a guy that is about to be convicted for rape and sentenced to 15 years to life in jail.
Mike, of course you don't. But do you have any control to do that? Do you have a God-given right to tell him?
If I
doesn't
am
that get
paying
somewhere near,
him, I
doesn't
do.
that get
What
somewhere
about
near
this?
slavery?
Wait a second. What about Ben
Are
Roethlisberger?
you an owner controlling the
what
life
about
of
Ben
a
Roethlisberger? Ben Roethlisberger.
Go ahead.
Likes to ride his motorcycle, his Harley. The Pittsburgh Steelers wrote into his contract that he wasn't allowed to ride that. He wrote it. He got in a wreck. He got hurt, and he lost part of the contract. What's the difference between riding a Harley and not wanting somebody out at 4 o'clock in the morning with a rapist?
Okay, let me speak. I'll tell you the difference is, first off, that clause is put on almost every actor, actresses, anybody who signs a big-time paid player, actor, actress. I see all the time actors, Keanu Reeves.
But why is that right to tell them they can't do that?
Hang on. No, it's not. Here's the deal. He has his own motorcycle company. When he signs a contract to do a movie, it is in his contract he cannot ride a motorcycle for the duration of the time that he's making that movie. That's an agreed-upon clause that is negotiated out between those two parties. All right? He says, I want the money. I want to do the movie. I will give up my right to ride a motorcycle for the period of this time of doing it. Ben Roethlisberger knows that inherently riding motorcycles is dangerous. He likes to ride. He signs a contract with that clause. That clause can be, as an agent can say, that clause has got to be out of there or we don't sign. Okay, Ben, you don't get $20 million a year. Because if you want to ride motorcycles and give up $20 million a year, I'm not going to invest $20 million a year into you because you want to go jerk off on motorcycles and get in a wreck. That's a negotiated agreement between two parties.
As is.
All right? And he accepted that when he signed the contract. Then he broke the contract.
All right, they all sign a character clause in their contract with the CBA.
It's not character riding a motorcycle. It's a safety issue.
I know, but we're going to
There's no character about riding a motorcycle.
So there's no safety issue with a player being out at 4 o'clock in the morning.
No, what? I walk my dogs at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes. It's not unsafe.
So you walk
sometimes
your
I wake up in the
while
morning.
You're drunk?
Well, now you're saying now he was drunk. Okay,
well,
is there
he
proof that he
obviously
was drunk?
was. Steve, when they're all driving
because he's out at 4 in the morning,
send him on his own.
Mike,
they
you've got to drive up I-74.
Oh,
you got to drive up to I-74 and go to Indianapolis and spend the weekend up there. Life goes on, buddy. It's not all just Lawrenceburg.
What are you talking about?
People do things at 4 o'clock in the morning. New York, the city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
And not everybody.
You drive your car. Wait a second. So when you drive your car to the bar and you take an Uber home, you're probably sober, right?
No, I mean, I don't know why maybe they just don't want to drive. I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, most likely, first of all, I don't drink, so I don't have that issue. I'm usually the designated driver. I gave up drinking 10 years ago. And so I could be out at 4 in the morning. Now what happens? So I'm a criminal now because I'm out at 4 in the morning and I'm at a bar and I drive,
wait
home.
A second. Nobody said he was a criminal. What I said was this. Why is he using an Uber when he's with his friends? And this is the thing. The friends went home by themselves and sent him in an Uber by himself. So the two friends stayed together and they sent him by himself.
Yeah, and there's as good a chance, too, that if he drives his Rolls Royce home at 4 o'clock in the morning, he's going to get profiled by some redneck police officer.
Well, you just said that
pull
there
him
was
over.
no racism, so we can't really go that way.
No, I never said there was no racism.
Well,
I just
said
said
the NFL
that
owners who
there's
are all
as good a
white
chance of that is
billionaires
happening
would.
of everything else. I just think you're arguing from a point of non-legality. You're arguing from a moral point. Morally, you're right. I get what you're saying. Probably it was bad. But you can't prove it, and the way our judicial system is set up is you are innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, if the NFL has a contract with the Players Association that they can conduct their own investigations and bind by that investigation superseding that of a police investigation or a criminal investigation, then Jameis should be suspended. He should not have been negotiated down to 3 games. It should be locked, done, and done. There becomes the problem with the NFL.
Wait a second.
They negotiate everything.
I got the character clause right here. And the players signed it, and it is they agree to let the NFL, an expert group of outside advisors, to review and evaluate potential violations and consult the other elements of the policy to come up with an agreement on the penalty.
Okay.
So
fine. Yes,
this
exactly.
is what they did. Baseline suspension of 6 games without pay for violations involving assault, battery, domestic violence, dating violence, child abuse, other forms of family violence, or sexual assault.
All right. Okay.
So right there,
we're on the same page.
Right.
He should be suspended for 6 games. End of story.
Yeah.
Take it out. Why are they negotiating down to 3 games? Why are they dropping it?
That's what
Why
I'm
is the
saying.
NFL even talking
Because
to him?
the NFL
Here is the code of
is
conduct
horseshit.
policy. Here is your fine. Sit out for 6 weeks. Come and talk to us. We'll look at reinstatement.
Yeah, because how do you suspend a player for PED use for 4 games, but somebody that maybe sexually assaulted somebody for 3? What's worse?
Well, in the eyes of the NFL, probably PED because it's a black and white issue.
This is the thing. The PED policy.
I'm telling you how I think they think. I'm not telling you what's right or wrong. I'm telling you how I think they think.
I don't think they do because this is set up so nobody ever tests positive. Because I can guarantee you this. I've coached a little football around that level, and most of your guys are using this stuff. The thing is this.
Sure.
Unless you get caught, they don't just show up one day and test you. They let you know when you're going to be tested until you fail that test. So
I played college basketball. I knew we were going to get peed in the bottle time. We knew when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So same thing. I mean, you're warned. You know, either on the record or off the record.
With the NFL, you know when you're going to be tested. So this is the thing. I just have a problem with the NFL, the way they conduct their business, because it's a joke. They pay Roger Goodell $40 million or something a year, and everybody gets treated differently when it needs to be the same. And the thing is this. I still tell you this. There aren't too many
Did I not
guys.
just argue that point for the last 30 minutes?
No. You were all over the place.
Yes, I did.
That's what everybody else thinks.
Lock, stock, and barrel.
Well, no, I think that was our whole thing to begin with. And I still think Winston should be suspended for 6 games. I think this. It's kind of like Mike Tyson when he got accused of being raping Desiree Washington in 1991. You know, why are you bringing her to your room at 4 o'clock in the morning? I mean,
why is she going to his room at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Exactly.
What is she thinking going there? That they're going to have a cup of tea and talk about the Queen and the monarchy? My God, why is she going there? That doesn't make it right to do what he allegedly did, or what he did do because he was convicted of it.
Yeah, but see, my point is this. If he didn't do it, he almost should go to jail for being dumb enough to let somebody he doesn't know come to his room at 4 o'clock in the morning when he's worth as much money as he is, and his name's Mike Tyson. I mean, hell, he's the former heavyweight champion of the world.
All I like to say is thank God being stupid is not a crime, or I just got my life in jail.
Yeah, I know. I think that all the time about
being stupid is
We'd have
that's fine. I mean, being stupid is not a crime. It's just being stupid.
Yeah, but
I think the
there's
issue
a
here,
difference
the issue
between
here
being
is this.
stupid and being dangerously stupid. And if you're worth all this money and you're going to bars or clubs, man, it's a bad idea. I mean, Plaxico Burress goes to a club, shoots himself in the leg in 2008, and takes a Giants team from 11-1 to 12-4 and losing in the playoffs right away because they lost him for a certain amount of games because he got arrested for it. I mean,
he takes a gun to the bar and shoots himself in the leg while he's dancing. I remember that.
Yeah, I just interviewed John Carney. John Carney, I forgot, was the kicker on that team, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'd have a Super Bowl ring if Plaxico Burress wouldn't have shot himself in the leg." He wore sweatpants to the club. All right, he wore sweatpants to the club. He stuck his gun without a holster into the belt of his sweatpants, and then it slipped down, went off, and shot him in the thigh.
Yeah, I know it was hilarious. I mean, it was the butt of most of the jokes by the late night comedians for a long period of time. Yeah, and I think the thing here is because I certainly am not one either. I think the first thing you have to realize is, including myself and you, we're not dealing with a bunch of Rhodes Scholars here. Okay, it's not to say we're dealing with unintelligent people by any stretch of the imagination, but they're normal kids who have way too much at their disposal, including money, fame, attention, opportunity, and time. And there's not enough responsibility on their shoulders. I have often said, I don't know why a league wouldn't institute some kind of policy based on the money we pay you that while in season, you work from 10 in the morning until practice every day. You go to hospitals on a daily routine. You talk to kids. You do community service.
Yeah,
that's part of your job, part of your contract.
Most of them do. That is part of
their job.
Well,
but it's mandatory that they all do it.
It is
because it keeps them busy. It makes them tired. It makes them not want to go to a bar at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, you know what? I'm tired. I had to go stand around this hospital all day and talk to kids with cancer that are dying, which emotionally is draining on me. And I got to go to practice, and I got to fight for this. But now I'm going to bed. I'm tired. I don't have time to get in my car and go do shots of bottle service whiskey with my buddies and stay out till 4 o'clock in the morning and get amorous and silly and get myself in trouble. I've never understood why, most guys up until a certain point in time, this, all got paid more in their summer jobs than they got paid playing professional sports. Most of them, once the season was over, they went back selling insurance, selling cars, selling appliances. They had full-time jobs that paid more than they got paid for playing professional sports.
Yeah.
Then the free agency comes along, then that all changes, and then now we have these kids who are many of them well-intending, but they get too much money, too much fame, too much power, too much opportunity, too much time, and those are just ingredients that create a bad formula. And it starts there. But the problem is the NFL does nothing about it. And that's on Goodell. He gets paid a lot of money to do not very much.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I think all these problems come from the fact that from the time somebody looks like they could be an athlete that could play at that level, they're pretty much allowed to have their run and do whatever the hell they want to do. And that's the problem with Jameis Winston. If somebody in junior high would have just said, hey, you don't act like that, and set an example for him, maybe he doesn't turn out the way he's turned out.
Well, I tell everybody this. When I went from high school, where I was a two-sport All-American, and everybody's number one in your hearts type crap, and I went from high school of getting patted on the ass everywhere I went down to a college or university with a coach that kicked everybody in the ass. And it was a rude freaking awakening. I mean, you were humbleized. The first thing that happens to a player under Bob Knight, you get humbleized.
Everybody take a shot.
Humbleized, it's an ism. It's an ism. I'm chock full of Risleyism. It's an ism. You were humbleized very quickly. And you were brought down to know that this is your place in society, on this team, and your commitment to your teammates, your education. And Knight was a genius at that. And unfortunately, that never really comes up. It's always the antics of throwing a chair and things of that nature. But It was that way. In high school, you could do no wrong, no matter, you got it, Risley, just score 30 points for us tonight, Riz.
Yeah,
beat Lawrenceburg. Beat Aurora.
You have to ask yourself.
Beat Aurora.
Well, you couldn't beat Aurora, but you have to ask yourself that what happens if you go to a UCLA or Kentucky and you don't have that kind of figure?
Well, I think you see what happens. I mean, kids go to China and steal sunglasses and get their butts kicked out of college and trash their lives, basically.
Because we all know if
look
y'all
at the ball
went
kids.
to China, if y'all would have went to China and got busted for stealing, Knight would have left your
we would have never
there.
been left alone. We would have never been allowed to go out on our own. There was always somebody with us. We went as a group. We didn't do things individually. We didn't get free time. Hell, we went to Hawaii and played in the Rainbow Classic. And I left, when we left there, we got beat, that terrible thing, we left and we flew off. And I looked out the window and I said, my God, they got ocean and beaches here? I didn't even know they had a beach here. Look at that, there's a beach down there. Shit, we were in the hotel room, we were in the film room, and we were on the basketball court. And that's all we did. And we went to Pearl Harbor as a team, and we went to the historic sites as a team, but we were not ever given the opportunity to screw up. And unfortunately, these kids today are just given this opportunity to screw up. And the NFL just continues to hand out the opportunity. Then they make some half-assed attempt at a punishment or a discipline. They're not consistent with it. And it smacks of favoritism. If the NFL conducted its own investigation and they found Winston guilty by their investigation, they found him liable and accusatory and guilty, and they have an agreement with the Players Association, they should have leveled the fine and said, don't even talk to us. If you want us to put out the report publicly, you want to go to trial, we'll put out the report publicly, then it all comes out in the wash.
Yeah, but see, I think this, even with the code of conduct and stuff, they've been so inconsistent with penalties, they don't want to go to court because it's going to – I mean, how many times does a guy sue them to get his suspension shortened, and it doesn't get you shortened? That doesn't happen that often. I mean, they're so inconsistent, it makes it hard for them to actually just put their foot down.
And there's the problem. They're inconsistent. We said that from the very get-go. They're just inconsistent in how they dole out their punishment. The first thing you do when you get a puppy is they tell you train a dog. Be consistent with the dog. If you don't want him on the couch, don't ever let him get on the couch. Don't ever let him get on the couch. Not that one time when you're curled up and, oh, come here, man, come get in my lap. You can't do that. It's like, no, the dog's not allowed on the couch. It has to understand that's not a place it can go.
Hey,
and the NFL doesn't.
I hate to get off track here, but we got a new pet today.
Oh, yeah, what'd you get?
We got a snake.
God.
My son fixed the starter on our car, and he's 16. I didn't think he could because they were going to charge us like $400 or $500 because it's so hard to get to. And my son said, if I do that, will you buy me a red-tailed boa snake? I'm thinking, hell, how much does the snake cost? And he said $150. So being from Indiana, I took $450 and I took $150, and I figured after 15 or 20 minutes that $150 was a lot less. So I figured, hell, I don't like snakes, but if it saves me $300, you can sleep with the damn thing. I don't care. So today,
and then you get up tomorrow. Your starter motor doesn't work.
No, it's ran for the last 4 days. So I let him order it. They overnighted it last night. 10:15 this morning, the guy walks up with the snake in a box, and he looks down at me, and on the box it says boa constrictor. And the guy looks at me, and he goes, is there really a boa constrictor in here? And I said, yeah. And he just kind of tosses it to me real quick and says, thanks, and left. So.
Yeah, well, guess what? Here's what we got. We have a grill. Everything's outside here in California. We have a gas grill, and opened it up and found a mouse living in our grill. So I got food for you.
Turn it on.
I'll get this. He sits below the burners, a little shit. That's what the first thing I did. I said, watch this. I closed the lid and turned it on. And he's like, he skirts out. I'm like, okay. So, we got to clean the grill, scrub it all down, get it all cleaned out, and don't see him for about 5-6 days. And then my son has a party Saturday with all of his Hollywood star girlfriends over here. Opens up the grill, and there's the mouse in the grill.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. It sounds hilarious. So I'm gonna catch this mouse. I'm gonna catch this mouse. I'm gonna FedEx it over to you, so you got food for the first month.
There you go.
I'll provide dinner.
The thing is this: after I buy the snake, all right, my wife comes home and I explain to her we did this, and he's owned a snake before. And the first snake he owned, we went to St. Augustine, Florida, for 2 weeks. And he fed the snake before we left, a mouse, a rat, or whatever the hell it was. And he had it in this big, enclosed case in his room. And we come home, like, after 2 weeks, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We just drove 14 hours to get home. And we walk in, and the house smelled so horrid. And we're running around the house trying to figure out what the hell's wrong. And then finally, he comes in screaming and crying. He'd open his door, and I guess the mouse had
killed the snake.
Yeah, the mouse had eaten the insides out of the snake. And my sister was watching my dog and let him out. And I called her, and she said, "Oh, your dog was great." I said, "Aren't you going to say anything about the smell?" And she goes, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "Oh, the snake died." She said, "It's been smelling like that for like a week and a half. I was wondering what the hell it was." We've named the red-tailed boa Dempsey after former heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey. So there you go. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow, me and Steve are going to talk about whether 15 and under football players should be playing tackle football, basically junior high and down, whether they should just be playing flag or not doing anything till high school. I know we both have different opinions on it, so you can check us out at noon on Survive and Advance there. You can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can follow Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth by either searching Grueling Truth or putting in at Survive the Magic. And basically, you can hear us every day on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.